What would you do if the world you knew was swept away by a single, furious storm, leaving only the pounding rain and a child's trembling heart? Maya pressed her forehead to the cold window pane, watching torrents of rain carve rivulets down the glass. Each drop was a tiny hammer, pounding against her heart with questions she dared not speak. Beside her, Micah sat cross-legged on the creaking floorboards, clutching an old teddy bear whose faded fur had once been crisp and white. Now it looked as weary as they felt. Outside, the night had descended into chaos. Thunder snarled across the sky, and lightning slashed through the darkness, illuminating the twisted branches of the oak that loomed over their small farmhouse. The wind howled like a wounded animal, rattling loose shutters and sending shivers through the old walls. When the storm reached its crescendo, Maya could almost hear it whisper, "You're not safe here." In the kitchen, remnants of dinner lay scattered: half-eaten stew, a chipped bowl, and 2 spoons left upright, as if frozen in mid-lift. Their mother had fled without warning, her footsteps swallowed by the storm. She'd left the light on in the hallway, swinging gently in the draft like a warning beacon. 2 minutes after the engine faded, panic had knotted Maya's throat. She'd run to Micah's room, heart pounding, and found him pale but steady, his small hand sliding into hers. "Do you think she'll come back?" Maya whispered, voice barely louder than the patter of rain. Micah's gray eyes met hers. He was 8 years old, but his blue eyes carried a wisdom far beyond his years. He shrugged, but the tremor in his shoulder betrayed the question in his mind. The house settled with a groan, and Maya realized they had a choice: wait here in terror, or step into the storm to find their father. He'd left months ago, chasing work and promising to return for the harvest. She remembered his laugh, deep and warm, echoing through sunlit fields, and the way he'd tousled Micah's hair. He had never left them willingly. Maya drew a steadying breath. "We have to find him," she declared, voice firm despite the quiver inside. Micah nodded, trading his teddy bear for her outstretched hand. They slipped on their raincoats, hand-me-down garments 2 sizes too big, smelling faintly of damp wool, and crept toward the front door. The latch protested, and for a moment Maya's hand froze on the handle. Beyond the threshold lay uncertainty, muddy fields, snapping branches, and miles of empty road. But beyond fear lay hope, hope that their father's love would guide him back. When Maya pulled the door open, a blast of wind nearly knocked her off her feet. She clamped her teeth together, bracing against the elements. As Micah pressed close behind, water surged over the threshold, pooling at their ankles. Lightning revealed the landscape in harsh contrast. Rows of corn flattened by the downpour, a broken fence swaying in the blur, and tracks leading toward the distant tree line, tracks that might be their only clue. Holding Micah's hand tight, Maya stepped into the storm. The rain plastered her hair to her face, and each breath tasted of damp earth and fear. Yet with every step, she felt a fierce determination kindle within her chest. They were twins, each one incomplete without the other, and together they would weather this night. Behind them, the farmhouse light blinked out as the door slammed shut in the wind. Ahead, the unknown loomed, but for Maya and Micah, every flash of lightning brought the promise of discovery, a promise that somewhere ahead, their father awaited, waiting to welcome them home. The rain pounded without mercy as Maya and Micah pressed deeper into the field beside their farmhouse, each step drawing them farther from safety and closer to the unknown. The corn stalks, once tall and proud, now lay matted in muddy furrows. Every squelch beneath Maya's boots felt like a warning. One false move and they could sink forever. Micah's small hand tightened around hers. "Maya, my boots stuck," he gasped, tugging free with a soft pop. His stockinged foot peeked from the torn cuff of his raincoat. Maya knelt to help, brushing away mud until he could slip his boot back on. In that instant, she saw something dark and familiar, a scrap of red cloth tangled in the stalks. "Mama's scarf," Maya whispered, heart skipping. The scarf was bright, a splash of color against the gray world, and she remembered how their mother wrapped it around her neck every autumn. If her mother had fled, why would her scarf lie here? It wasn't hers, it was father's. She'd sewn it for him last winter. Micah leaned in. Do you think he came this way? Maybe, Maya said. Brushing off the mud, she wrapped the scarf around her wrist like a talisman. It's a sign. They followed the line of torn stalks toward a low rise where the ground hardened into a rutted path. Lightning flashed, revealing deep tire tracks cutting through the mud. Tracks too wide for any ordinary car. Maya's breath caught. Their father drove an old pickup with heavy tires like these. Hope surged through her. The path led to a collapsed fence and beyond it, a narrow creek swollen to twice its size. A fallen log served as a precarious bridge. Micah froze at its edge, eyes fixed on the rushing water. I don't want to cross, he admitted, voice shaking. Maya knelt beside him. I know it's scary, she said softly, but if we want to find Father, we have to keep going. She placed her hand over his. I'll go first, and you follow right behind me. I won't let go. He nodded, trembling, and Maya tested each plank of the log. It held, inch by inch. She edged across, heart hammering with every crack and creak. When she reached the other bank, she reached back, helping Micah into her arms for the final step. They landed with a splash, breathless and soaked to the bone. Thunder rumbled as they pressed on, following the muddy trail that sloped uphill toward a dense copse of pines. There, half hidden in shadow, stood a small wooden barn, the one their father had promised to fix for storing hay. Its doors hung crooked, but a sliver of lantern light flickered within. Father? Maya called, stepping forward. The wind swallowed her voice, but Micah strained to hear a reply. Silence answered them, broken only by the staccato patter of rain on tin. They crept inside. The barn smelled of hay and oil, comforting in its familiarity. Against one wall lay their father's canvas bag, soaked but intact. Inside, they found a half-empty thermos of coffee and a crumpled note. To my two brave lights, if you're reading this, I've gone for help. Follow the ridge north to Miller's Creek. I'll meet you there. Maya pressed the note to her chest, tears mingling with raindrops on her cheeks. He's okay, she whispered. Micah leaned against her, relief softening his features. A sudden crack of thunder jolted them. Maya folded the note and tucked it safely into her pocket. We know where to go, she said, voice firm. Tomorrow, we follow the ridge to Miller's Creek. Tonight, we stay here, safe from the worst of the storm. Micah nodded and gathered stray bales of hay, piling them into a makeshift bed. Maya retrieved the thermos, handing it to him. He blew on the coffee's steam, warming his chilled fingers. In that dim barn, under the barn's trembling lantern light, the twins found their first measure of hope, proof that their father's heart beat as fiercely as their own. Drawing them onward, dawn broke soft and gray. The storm's fury spent, but its aftermath still clinging to every leaf and blade of grass. Maya stirred first, the scent of damp hay and spilled coffee lingering in the barn's gloom. Micah's steady breathing beside her was both comfort and reminder. They could not falter now. Their father's note lay folded in Maya's pocket, its promise a spark of purpose in the cold morning air. She nudged Micah awake. It's time, she whispered. His eyes fluttered open, and he nodded, pulling the blanket tighter around his shoulders. They gathered their few belongings, Micah's soaked teddy bear, a half loaf of bread, the thermos, and stepped into the misty dawn. Outside, the world was a cathedral of dripping branches and puddles reflecting the pale sky. The ridge north lay before them, a gentle rise flecked with rocks and stunted oaks. In the distance, the low gurgle of Miller's Creek promised both danger and reunion. Maya led the way, pressing the note against her heart. Follow the ridge, she murmured, listening to the hush of their footsteps. Every crackle underfoot felt magnified in the silence. Micah trailed close, but after the first half mile, his steps slowed. Hunger tugged at him. He stopped, gaze fixed on the half-eaten bread. Maya split the loaf into two crooked pieces. Share, she said simply. They ate in companionable silence, the bread tasting of cold rain and resolve. Behind them, the barn receded into mist. Ahead, the ridge beckoned like a friend guiding them home. As they climbed, the ground grew rocky, loose stones skittered down the slope, forcing Maya to choose her footing carefully. Once, she slipped, but Micah's small hand shot out, steadying her. Their eyes met. Fear and fierce determination mingled in that glance. Halfway up the ridge, they discovered fresh footprints pressed into the soft earth, wide tired tracks, then smaller boot prints cut directly through them. Maya smiled through her chill. Their father had passed this way, and Micah had followed close behind. They were close, beyond the footprints. A fallen pine blocked the path. Its massive trunk lay across the narrow trail, moss softened and slick. Micah stopped, panic flickering in his eyes. "We can't climb over," he whispered. Maya surveyed the trunk. A knot of roots had torn free on one side, creating a natural ramp. She tested it with her boot. "We can do it. Together." She reached down, offering her hand. Micah hesitated, then grabbed on, inch by inch. They hauled themselves up, the moss sliding beneath their palms. When Micah's boot slipped, Maya's firm grip kept him from tumbling into the underbrush. At the crest of the ridge, they paused. The world opened before them, rolling hills sliced by the silvery coil of Miller's Creek. Sunlight broke through the clouds, gilding the water's surface. Maya felt her heart surge. After every trial this night, this morning, they had arrived at the promised place. They hurried down the slope. Following the creek's curve, the water climbed their ankles, cold and insistent. But they pressed on. Then Maya stilled, pointing ahead. On a jagged rock by the bank lay their father's red jacket, tangled in brambles. Her breath caught. Micah edged forward. "He was here!" His voice cracked with relief. Maya scanned the opposite bank. Rocks pressed damply into muddy footprints. And beyond them, a narrow trail leading into the pine thicket. "Let's call him," Maya said. She cupped her hands and shouted, "Father, it's us, Maya, Micah." Their voices echoed once, twice, then faded. A sudden rustle in the pines made them both freeze. "Papa?" Micah whispered. Lightning white hope flared in his eyes. Before Maya could answer, a shape emerged where light met shadow. A tall figure, coat slung over one shoulder, stepping carefully toward them. His boots sank into the mud with each stride. But he moved with purpose. Maya's breath caught as he came into view. Through the morning mist, she recognized the curve of his jaw, the rough, work-worn hands. He paused at the water's edge, gaze fixing on them. "Twin lights," he breathed, voice thick with emotion. His arms drew them in as the creek gurgled around their knees. In that embrace, the world righted itself. The storm's terror, the night's uncertainty, the long hours of searching, all dissolved into the fierce warmth of a father's love. They stood there, rain-streaked and trembling, but together at last, finding a home not in shelter or barn, but in each other's hearts. The three of them stood ankle-deep in Miller's Creek, water swirling around their boots, their father's arms wrapped tightly around Maya and Micah, as if he feared the storm might still sweep them away. For a long moment, no one spoke. The misty morning hush pressed in on them, the creek's gentle roar the only sound. Finally, their father drew a ragged breath and lowered his gaze. His work-worn coat hung open, revealing a threadbare shirt and trembling shoulders. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. His voice cracked like dry wood. "When the factory closed, He stopped, swallowing hard. "I didn't know how to tell you. I thought if I found the steady work first, I could come back with enough to keep you safe." Maya stepped forward, rain-damp hair plastered to her cheeks. "But you were gone for weeks," she said softly. "We were scared." Micah's big eyes shimmered with tears. "We thought you'd abandoned us." Their father's head bowed. "I was afraid," he admitted. "I was terrified I'd fail you. Every mile away I went, I kept thinking I'd be bringing shame home instead of security, and then I lost the map, the money, even the boots I'd bought for this very walk. He knelt in the shallows, drawing both children close. I left that note in the barn because I knew you'd follow my path. I saw your courage when I looked at your footprints beside mine. I hoped you'd be safe in the barn until I returned. He rubbed his face, leaving streaks in the mud. But I never imagined you'd brave the creek and the ridge in the dark. You shouldn't have had to. Maya shook her head, gripping his collar. Father, courage isn't about never being scared. It's about pushing forward anyway. We did it because we knew you loved us. And we love you. Micah nodded, pressing his face into their father's chest. We're your twin lights. Remember? Their father's hand caressed each of their heads. He looked first at Maya, then at Micah, pride shining through his exhaustion. My lights, he murmured. I thought I was protecting you by going alone, but I see now the greatest strength I have is all of you. He stood and offered his hand to Maya. She took it and then reached back for Micah's. Together, they climbed the muddy bank, water dripping from their coats and hair. On the crest of the ridge, the morning sun burst through the cloud cover, painting the world in gold. For a moment, they simply watched the light dance on the creek below. The storm scars remained, flattened corn, torn fence, splintered branches, but beneath the damage lay the promise of renewal. Their father breathed deeply, eyes shining. Come home, he said. Home is here, with you. No storm can take that away. Maya smiled through the rain's last gentle drops, hand in hand. The three made their way down the ridge toward their farmhouse, each step lighter than the last. The world may be unpredictable. They knew. Some bonds were steadfast, guiding them through even the fiercest of storms. Morning sunlight streamed through the cracked panes of the farmhouse windows, painting golden patches on the worn wooden floor. Maya and Micah blinked awake to the scent of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee drifting from the kitchen. Their father's steady hammering echoed through the hallway, punctuated by warm laughter as he patched a loose hinge on the pantry door. Maya stretched and slipped from the bed of hay they'd made in the corner. Micah waited until she gave him a nod, then quietly helped tuck the makeshift blanket away. Together, they tiptoed toward the kitchen, hearts fluttering with anticipation. Inside, their father leaned over the stove, humming softly. His jacket was draped over a chair, and the canvas bag from Miller's Creek lay open on the table. Beside it, their mother's bright scarf, cleaned and neatly folded, awaited them. When he saw the twins in the doorway, his hammer fell to the floor with a soft clatter. Good morning, lights, he said, his voice gentle. He set 2 plates before them, eggs, bacon, and slices of warm bread. Maya sank into a chair, Micah sliding into the one beside her. Their father joined them with his plate, then paused, looking between them with a gravity that made their bellies tighten. I promised I'd make this right, he said, voice low. I'll never leave you in a storm again. He reached out, taking both their hands in his. From now on, no promises broken. We rebuild together. This house, our farm, our family. Maya glanced at Micah, whose eyes sparkled with renewed hope. Outside, birds called from the budding trees, and sunlight danced through the green canopy. It felt like a new beginning. After breakfast, they set to work. Maya gathered fallen branches and helped her father repair the broken fence, each hammer strike a testament to their unity. Micah carried fresh water from the well, laughing as a curious calf nuzzled his hand. Their father watched them with pride, calling out gentle instructions and stories of his childhood on these very fields. By afternoon, the fence stood straight and strong. The twins raced to the barn, pulling shovels and replanting flattened corn stalks side by side. Their mother appeared at the window, tears shining in her eyes as she watched the family she almost lost. When dust settled, the 4 of them sat on the porch steps, blankets around their shoulders. The repaired farmhouse glowed in lantern light, warm and inviting. Their father wrapped an arm around each twin and drew them close. Maya, Micah, he said, voice steady. No storm, inside or out, could ever wash away what we share. You taught me that courage and love make any home unbreakable. Micah rested his head against his father's chest. Maya smiled up at the stars emerging overhead. In that quiet moment, they understood. Home wasn't just a place or a promise. It was the unshakable bond they carried in their hearts. The next morning, the sky gleamed with promise. Sunlight filtered through mist, painting the pasture in soft gold. Maya and Micah stood at the crest of the hill, hand in hand with their father. Below them lay the farm they would rebuild together, rows of sprouting green, the sturdy fence they had mended, and the farmhouse where laughter now lived. Look how far we've come, Maya said, voice filled with awe. Micah nodded, eyes bright. Their father smiled, sweeping an arm around them both. We found each other in the storm, he said, and now we stand together in the calm. They descended the hill, barefoot this time, feeling the dewy grass underfoot. With each step, memories of fears and rain faded, replaced by the warmth of family. Back at the farmhouse, their mother waited on the porch, holding 2 steaming mugs of cocoa. She rushed forward, wrapping them all in a gentle embrace. Inside, every corner buzzed with renewed life. Fresh curtains fluttered in the breeze. Repaired walls gleamed with new paint, and the dining table hewn from cedar stood ready for shared meals. Maya set Micah's teddy bear on a shelf beside their father's tools, symbols of survival and hope. That evening, as cicadas sang and fireflies danced, the family gathered on the porch. Their father began a story from his childhood of storms braved, mistakes learned, and love rediscovered. Maya and Micah listened, nestled between him and their mother, hearts full. When the tale ended, their father looked out at the field stretching under a violet sky. No matter what comes, he said softly, we carry home within us, wherever we go. Maya pressed her cheek against his shoulder. Micah curled at his side, and together they watched the first stars appear. In that quiet glow, the twins understood the fiercest storms might swirl around them, but the truest shelter was their father's heart and each other's light. And so, under the new dawn, they found not just a house restored, but a home reborn in love. As dusk settles over the farmhouse, Maya and Micah curl up side by side on their father's lap, the warmth of home finally closing around them. The storm has passed, but its lessons remain. Courage can light the darkest night, and love can rebuild what fear once tore apart. In the soft glow of lantern light, their family stands united, stronger, wiser, and bound forever by the promise that no matter how fierce the rain, a father's heart will always shelter his twin lights.